Welcome back to the Student Hub Live. Well, this session is called Most Common Student Queries, but actually it is any student queries, any student question that you've got right now, we'd like to try and answer. And I'm joined by Sarah Jones, who has been an OU student and is part of the association, and Tyrrell Golding, who's a member of staff here. So hopefully we can answer pretty much anything that people throw at us. And there've been a lot of questions coming through. And HJ, I can see you've been busy with your post-it notes.
I know, I've been adding loads of fantastic stuff to our board. So I've put a section of all our study motivations. We've had some fantastic ones. And I think one from Ron that I recently put up that is really worth highlighting. He's studying the People Work in Society Access module. He's been retired for some years and never got past A-level English, and he feels that things have been incomplete without structured education, so he wants to use his time to accomplish something he hasn't managed before, which is fantastic, and he's looking for lots of inspiration from the Access module. But yeah, I've had a great tip from Tara as well. When she does the online tutorials, she likes to save and look at the slides after as well as a reminder and a chance to sit down herself and review. So that's a great tip I'd love to put up there, just on our board. And if there's any other tips you have, definitely send them in. In terms of questions, well, we've got loads, of course, which is absolutely fantastic. We had a great question earlier from Hayley, who was asking what support is there available for disabled students?
Oh, good question.
There is a lot of support available for disabled students. I myself am a disabled student. So I have... there's a form that you can fill in on the student homepage, and that will give the disabled support team all the information that they need, and they'll be in contact with you with what help that they can give you. They will also point you in the direction of the disability support, what's it called? DSA.
Disabled students.
That's it,
Allowance,
disabled students allowance. And you fill in a form for that, send that off. They will send you for an assessment, which is literally nothing to worry about at all. It's about supporting you as a student and making sure that you can have the best possible support to get going. I went for my assessment. They discovered that I have Erlen syndrome, which I didn't know about, and spent 40 years not knowing, struggling to read. And now I've got blue overlays and I can read all my, and that's because I contacted the disability support team. So through that, all that's happened. But they're fantastic. They can provide alternative formats. They can provide all kinds of different support. But the best thing to do is to speak to them, let them know. If they don't know, they can't help you. But the best thing, if you're a little bit worried about that, speak to your tutor and they will also help you with that. But the disability support team are amazing, and they're there to help.
And the Disabled Students Group's also a really cool place on Facebook, isn't
they're
it?
fantastic. The Disabled Students Group have a range of people within them that have a great wealth of experience and can point you in the right direction of things. If you look for DSG on Facebook, or go onto the Students Association page and look for DSG, and that will point you in that direction.
Can I just also add, though, I think within the School of Education, Childhood, Youth and Sport, you know, many of you will be studying subjects around inclusion.
Yeah.
And we think that good teaching and learning is good teaching and learning that supports all students. So it's designed with all students in mind. So, for example, just very briefly, a video will have, you'll be able to click and download the text linked to the video.
Yeah,
so you've then got that, a Word document. So that's for students, obviously, who may not be able to hear the video, or the audiovisual case studies, or whatever it might be. But that's a resource that all students might benefit from. So Sarah's talked, we have alternative formats. So if you've got a reader or you've got any kind of hard copy book, you can go onto your website and there'll be a PDF and Word versions that you can, and links to study skills in your module so you can learn how to highlight them. So when you go back, you can keep your book pristine if you're like that. I like highlighters and stuff. I'm shameless, but
I have erasable highlighters.
Oh, I've never heard of those.
Erasable highlighters, I love them.
So you would erase everything at the end. I think that's on par with Kieran's napkin fold, don't you?
Yes.
Personally.
On something that HJ said before about one of the students saying that she took copies of the PowerPoint. Yeah. One thing I did was I emailed my tutor and said, look, is it at all possible to get a copy of the PowerPoint before it starts? Then I print off the PowerPoint and I scroll around the PowerPoint, and I've got it there so that I've got a really good visual reminder, and I'm not worried about panicking ahead of time. So that's kind of saved my anxiety going into a tutorial. So it's worth asking. They may say no, but it's always worth asking, always.
So Sarah wants to ask you, Sarah. She's not sure if she's got dyslexia or not, and she hasn't had a diagnosis for this as well. But can they diagnose dyslexia?
They can certainly look and say, we think you've got it. This is what you need to do, and point you in the right direction. So when I went for my my assessment, I can't remember what it's called, my assessment, the lady said to me, has anybody ever asked you about this? And for the first, she just put some coloured overlays over some writing, and for the first time the words stayed still, and that had never happened in my whole entire life, and I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, is that what's actually supposed to happen? And then I was pointed in the right direction, and I went to my opticians and I got tested, but there's other ways of getting tested. So yeah, they can just point you in the right direction. They can suggest this is something that you could really do with doing, and tell you how to do it.
And it's interesting. I had a friend who actually went through that process, was diagnosed with dyslexia. But what's really interesting is that sometimes you can think there is a label or a term of something, and actually the support that each person gets is quite different, even if it's the same diagnosis.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very individual thing.
Okay, let's take some more questions.
Yeah, along with our studying questions, I think a great one from Hannah is she's looking to study 2 modules at once. What would your advice be from a planning and balance perspective?
Well, firstly, congratulations.
Absolutely.
You know,
Well done.
Well done. It is brilliant. We have we have many students who study full time with us.
I'm one of them.
And Sarah's one of them. I wasn't going to out you as a full time student, but I think for me, it's brilliant. And what we've had from feedback from students, and over the summer I undertook a student consultation with lots of our students studying 120 credits. It was a really positive set of conversations. I think because we're sort of set up as part-time, I think sometimes the messages might come across as not as positive as people might like, but as a school we're incredibly positive about students studying full-time, if that's right for them. And some of our students have studied full-time at level 1, and Kieran was talking earlier about how as you progress through your undergraduate degree that your marks then sort of feed into your final kind of grade, or your classification. So we sometimes find students choose to sort of ramp up study or take it down and study part-time if life changes. But we're really positive, and we've got examples now, and we've had more students go through studying full-time, where some students do better because they study full-time.
I think I'm doing better studying full-time. It's a massive challenge. I've got 2 small children at home. I've got all the other things that I do. I've got life that I do. But I've found being just keep planning. I think one of the things when I was doing youth work, when I was first learning how to do it, was if you don't plan, you prepare to fail. And it's just kind of, actually, for me, that works. It doesn't work for everybody. For me, it works. So I write down at the beginning of the week what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and my family know when I'm doing it. My boys are 7 and 9, so half term, they're at home with me. I have an app on my tablet that I set it for 30 minutes study, 5 minutes off, 30 minutes study, 5 minutes off. When it gets to the big 20 minutes, they know they can come, and that's my time with them. But those 5 minutes, if they've got a burning question that literally can't wait, they know that 5 minutes is the 5 minutes that I will turn around and say, yes, I can talk to you. But they know that 30 minutes is when mummy needs to focus and mummy needs to study. And even if I haven't got any music playing or anything, I have my headphones on, because that also is a visual indicator for them that I'm working. And it works for us. It will not work for everybody. But my biggest advice is find a time that you can study. Block off that time. Make sure your friends and family know that's your study time. Learn to say no to friends and family, but at the same time, make sure you make time for friends and family. And also be kind to yourself, because if you're constantly going da da da, you're not going to be able to focus. You need to make sure that in that 30 minutes you've got a piece of cake waiting. You've got something to work towards, you know. So it's all about finding a balance and working towards that balance.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I would start with getting the TMAs in your diary.
That's one of the problems, isn't it, with studying, is that they often are happening around similar times,
I mean,
don't they?
we try really hard. So I chair our board where we approve all the modules coming through and the assessment strategies. And we try really hard to look at that for students. But we have a number of students, particularly, for example, who might be studying psychology with us. And so it's really difficult to kind of map that. And actually, as a school, our modules mostly start in October because we're in education. That works for our students. The academic year is a certain length. 60 credit modules have certain kinds of assessment strategies. So there are reasons why we can't, have massive gaps, but we do look at it. And have a look, see what your module combination is. We do, as I say, assess it across the school. And I would also say, just as with everything, and to be honest, if I had one mantra today, it's speak to your tutor. Absolutely. If you're doing two modules, just make sure that your tutor's aware of those two modules. They have probably got experience of supporting students across those two modules, if not other people in their group now studying those two modules.
Brilliant. And we've also got a time management workshop as well, where we've got loads of techniques and tips and tools and planners. So book onto that from the Student Hub Live website if you'd like to come to it. There are other questions, though, following on from that.
Yes, one great question from Vanessa is, what are the main differences that she can expect between level 2 and 3 with that step up?
Oh, that's a challenge. I think each level is a step up, and I think really one of the things that I would say as you progress, you're expected, I suppose, to be more independent in your studies. But really, I think one of the things that we talk a lot about is being more critical in your studies. So I always think, level 1, we want you to kind of, there will be some criticality, but really actively and effectively describe what it is you're seeing. So if you're in a primary setting or you're working with young people or early childhood, we want you to accurately be exploring those children and young people's worlds, or in sport and fitness. So you're describing back, and we're confident that you're seeing what we think you're seeing, and that you're understanding what's going on. And then as you progress and you read more, and you'll start to see that actually there are differences of opinion about what it is that is being portrayed. So at level 2, you might be getting better at kind of comparing and contrasting two different ideas. And by level 3, you may well be adding your own sense of the world to those discussions. So particularly students who are studying EK313, there's research involved. So they'll be sort of pulling together literature reviews and talking about the literature and the subject that they're interested in, and hopefully starting to find their own voice. So I think that for me is the kind of progression.
Brilliant. Well answered, Till, but we've got more.
Yes, one question Sarah has is, can she just go all the way through, just doing 30 credits at a time for her degree?
We don't actually, as a school, have 30 credits. We have 60 credit modules. We do have a couple of 30 credits that are being taught out. So if Sarah's doing sport and fitness, there is that option, but I think it's the last year. But yes, if you do 60 credits a year for 6 years in a row, bish bash bosh, you'll be celebrating at one of the brilliant OU ceremonies before you know it.
Of course, Sarah might be doing an open degree, we don't know, but many students come and choose some of these options as part of a different programme.
Absolutely, and are very, very welcome. And so we do try and make sure that in our communication, in our voice, we make sure that you know that whether it's an open degree, or as I say, we have a lot of psychology students share our qualifications, you're really, really, really welcome. And I do a lot of work across the university with my colleagues in those areas to ensure that we're communicating and trying to make sure that you have the best experience that we can support you to have.
Brilliant, excellent. Lovely. We've got some student card questions.
Yes, Naomi and John have asked us how we can get our student cards and what we need to get them as well.
Oh, are they talking about
The
the NUS discount card, which is absolutely brilliant, and I have one of those as well, and they're great. So how do you get hold of those?
If you go onto the Student Association page, there's a link that you can follow and information on there, and it's really very, very simple. It's very simple.
I had quite a few problems, and when I did mine, and I was a postgrad student. I know we've got some postgrad students joining us. So I then had to re-email the ECYS account. There's a link through the ECYS, which is the OU Student Association webpage. And they gave me a different code that I then submitted to the NUS site.
Brilliant.
For the most part, it's very simple.
Yeah.
And HJ's put a link into the chat, so you can go off and apply and get your card. And the money, I think they cost a small amount of money, if I remember rightly, but they're very worth it in terms of discounts. You get them everywhere.
absolutely.
And they last a long time.
Yeah.
So that's great, isn't
They
it?
do.
You don't pay that
There's something
opening.
really nice about going in. We were talking yesterday about feeling like, a proper student, and some people saying, well, I don't feel like a proper student. Well, you certainly do when you go in with your card.
There's so many places. And I go, do you do student discount? I mean, swimming for me, I get a discount because I live in the area, and then I get double discount because I'm a student, and it's so exciting. Dead cheap swims, fantastic.
Yeah. I was just going to say it's one of those sort of artefacts, those things of being a student. And, having sort of worked here for a number of years and talked to loads of students during that time, and Sarah was pointing towards that about how you support your family to support you. And, what does it look like to be an OU student versus a proper student, which is, don't like that terminology, but students, if you go somewhere to learn, it's different from being in your front room, and it's one of the ways of, communicating to your family. And we sometimes see that in the lovely clips, as I say, at the OU ceremonies. And if you ever want motivation, watching those videos is brilliant motivation. Of families, this is the point sometimes when families, for the first time, see you as a student when you're graduating. So anything that you can do that makes you feel like a student and gets you in that headspace, I think is great.
Absolutely, definitely,
But it's important to reinforce, if you are feeling like that at home, employers really value OU students, and you pick up all of these skills like self-discipline, motivation, excellent time management, completing specific tasks on time, working with feedback. All of those skills are so important, aren't they?
And we've got our careers colleagues coming up.
And they'll be able to talk about that some more, but they're very into making sure that they have a hashtag OU Career Confident, which it gives you look at, I've just done this course and this course, but actually what skills have you learned, what life skills have you learned that actually employers are looking for, and that's something that's very specific to OU students.
And I think the other side to that for me is actually, I know that there were some queries around students coming to study for the first time of being, not studied for ages. You may not have formally studied, but you have learnt a huge amount. If you've researched a holiday or a new car or bought a house, you've read documents, you've been critical about what it is that you've been engaging with, you've been comparing and contrasting. You bring all of these skills. So, all we're doing is we're going to be supporting you to use them in these new ways. But you've got the skills.
Yes.
We've got a few more questions. I'm just trying to squeeze as many as we possibly can in.
I think Pamela has a fantastic question because we mentioned it a lot. She wants to know, what exactly is the student support team, the SST?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Well, we have the SRSC, which is the Student Support Centre, which is based in Nottingham. And actually, the SST is kind of the student support team, which is sort of all of us. So we're all part of that. But yes, so the SRSC is a brilliant kind of centre for us in our school. It's based in Nottingham. Very, very experienced colleagues who will be able to really answer any queries. And you may get referred by your AL if there's something specific. So, for example, none of us will support you, but we won't answer questions about student finances because that's not what we're skilled to do. But we have colleagues in Nottingham who are very, very experienced. But actually it's a triaging service, so it means that they can make sure that you get the right level of information, advice and guidance, or indeed can support you to access the different services across the university. So I would see them as a hub, a specialist hub there to support you with perhaps most of the kind of, I'd sort of say, the stuff that sits outside the curriculum, but actually they're so experienced. Don't worry about what they can't support you with. Just get in contact.
Absolutely fantastic. I've rang them a few times and they've been so helpful. They've pointed me in exactly the right direction. Because sometimes you don't know where to turn and you're a bit kind of, so ring them up, give them a call. They're very friendly, very, very knowledgeable. They're fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. And if you're interested in seeing some members of the student support team, or indeed we've got a short video showing you some of the areas, which hopefully we'll play a little bit later in the programme today as well, you can go to the Student Hub Live YouTube channel and you can just put student support team in there, and then we've got loads of sessions there with members of the team. And of course on Monday next week we'll be introducing you to them as well. They're open, which is really, really brilliant, on Saturday mornings. They've got a really wide range of hours. And the thing I most like about them is that they're all sort of, they're not sort of counsellors, but they give you a space to sound stuff off.
Yes,
so if you're worried about something, it can be really helpful to sort of go through your issues, think about what's right for you, and have that space and someone to listen and think about really the right thing.
Absolutely, yeah, they're fantastic. I was worried about my tutor. I didn't feel I could turn to my tutor. I rang them up and said, what do I do? And they pointed me in exactly the right direction. Got the whole issue resolved. It was really good to know that even if nothing else happens throughout my whole OU career, I know that they're there, and just having that as a backup is just nice to know that they're there.
And I think, for us, it's really important. It's so important that you use these services. It's not just, at least we've got colleagues sitting there that they want your calls. But actually, when things come through the SRSC or SST in Nottingham for us, it's really useful because a student might speak to their AL and their AL sees one issue, but actually our colleagues in Nottingham can see when there's if there was a bigger problem that we need to address. And so that's really helpful for us. So if any kind of that feedback, it's really important to us. So please don't feel that you're on your own.
Because I think that the tutor always helps with the academic side, and they can help with time management and reprioritisation and stuff. But as you say, Tyrell, one of the things I think students might need to know about, and they don't need to know, I guess, who to call in terms of the SS2, our sort of, we've got all these terms, don't we, at the OU. But the important thing is that within each school, there are specialist people who know the qualification pathways. They'll be able to check on that particular student's option with their career aspirations in mind and give them advice and guidance about what is right for them. And that's why it's good to have those sort of school specialists, isn't it?
And they're very networked. So, for example, as I said, I'm a youth worker, so I'm a JNC qualified practitioner. Sometimes the students will have a very, very specific question about youth work in Wales or youth work in Scotland, for example. Those colleagues can triage and they will ring us. They will do the walking for you, as it were. So it's just a great one-stop shop for you to go to. And they, as I say, I think sometimes students feel nervous about sort of disturbing us. I assure you, we all get out of bed in the morning to see you be successful. So, we want you to ring us. We want to know how we can help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always the nicest part of my day is dealing with students, much better than other rigmarole and forms and
Even if it's a challenging thing that we need to support students with, it's still the best reason to not go to a meeting that there is. It's great.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you both so much. That's been wonderful. You've answered lots and lots of questions. So thank you for coming along today. And I bet there's lots more, because one of the things about doing something new is sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So keep those questions coming. And as I say, you can log on to other events as well. Today's not the be-all and end-all. It's the start of your journey. You'll meet loads and loads of people in your Open University journey with us. So plenty of chance to connect. But if you do have other questions, you can let us know. So, H-Show, what's going on in the chat then?
Well, as always, there's loads going on. Tara let us know that there's actually a mental health support group in the OU as well, which is accessible by Facebook. So lots of supportive people on there, which is fantastic, along with the disabled students groups having a lot of forums to get support and to join in and get social with other students as well. Karen's completed the NUS application, so patiently waiting for the NUS card to come through. I remember using mine. I love using it for my gym membership. I think sometimes when you're at your desk at the computer working for so long, it's sometimes nice just to get out and do something. I suppose Sarah likes to swim and I like the gym. If there's anything that you're doing with your student discount, let us know. I'd really like to hear about some of the cool offers that you found. We did have another couple of questions come through. So I saw Sarah asked, how long roughly would it take to do a 60 credit module? The OU guidance usually says about 16 to 18 hours, but when you actually start and get into it, you find out how long it takes you. For me, I always take quite a while to read things. I am quite slow, so I find it a bit longer. But maybe while you're doing your first week, you can record how long it's taken you and then use that to plan as well. And if you have concerns about how long it's taken you, why not contact your tutor or your student support team, and they'll be happy to help get you organised as well. I know Alana's a bit concerned that she hasn't had some of her materials yet. Again, student support team, that's the best place to go. I'll post the links in the chat. Just let them know you don't think you've got everything or it's not come yet, and they'll be more than happy to help. And alongside my board beside you, may have seen earlier I said I've added some post-its of some of our study motivations and study tips. I know we've been wanting to add some pictures as well. So yesterday we did have a lovely conversation about all the biscuits we've been eating, and after a long day talking about psychology and counselling, we finally got some. And some people have been sending them in as well. So Katie, who studied an Access module, sent us a picture from when she went to the V&A Museum, and she said that was a fantastic experience. And I've got an actual picture of my own as well, of my cat, who always likes to sit next to the keyboard. So this is Bella. She likes to sit next to the keyboard, most of the time on it. So, you know, it's a bit different for me to have a picture of her there. And for our final picture of today as well, we've got Sarah learning how to write her name in Japanese as well. She said that was a great experience, and started off on a journey to her language learning. So you can send in a picture as well as your study tips if you'd like to our email address, studenthub@open.ac.uk. Just put in there that is your picture and you're happy for us to use it. I'll put a little statement in the chat, and we'd love to see it, whether it's your study buddy, an interesting picture of somewhere where you've been, your stationery, or what the view is like from where you are. We'd love to see it.
Oh, thanks, AJ. Well, you covered a lot there, haven't you? Getting our money's worth out of you. Thank you very much for that. We love seeing your pictures, so please do send those in to us, and we can put them up on the board as if by magic. You're very clever, aren't you, with that? Lovely.